I'm Shelby, standing in the county courthouse's conference room. The gavel has just fallen, and I've just purchased my childhood home back at the foreclosure auction. The room is filled with whispers, and I can feel my sister, Ava, staring daggers at me from across the room. Her mascara is running down her cheeks, and she looks like a broken woman. I stand up, my legs shaking, but my voice steady as I announce to everyone that this house was my parents' and the money I used is from the inheritance they left me, their adopted daughter. 5 years ago, my life took a drastic turn. My parents, Robert and Elizabeth, were kind-hearted and wealthy business owners. They adopted me as a baby and raised me with so much love that I never once felt like an outsider. But Ava, my sister, who is 8 years older than me, was always jealous. She was the rebellious type, always getting into trouble and having a sense of entitlement. My parents' tragic death in a plane crash shattered my world. At the funeral, the air was thick with the smell of lilies and the weight of grief. Ava, dressed in a designer black dress, approached me with a fake smile. She pointed to the back row of chairs and said I should sit there because the front was for real family. Aunt Linda, my mother's cousin, tried to intervene, but Ava's husband, Jake, pulled her back. I felt so alone as I walked to the back row, hearing strangers whisper about the poor adopted girl. 3 days after the funeral, the lawyer's office called to confirm my attendance at the will reading. Ava snatched the phone from my hand and told them I wouldn't be coming, saying only beneficiaries needed to be present and I wasn't named. She later came home beaming, announcing that she'd inherited everything, the house, the investments, and all the savings. She then tossed a bank card at me, saying it was probably an old, empty account, a charity gift from our parents. The next day, she gave me 24 hours to leave the house. I called every relative I could think of, but they all believed Ava's lies that I was being greedy about the inheritance. Aunt Linda was the only one who seemed to sense something was wrong. She told me in a hushed voice not to throw anything away, but she was too afraid of Ava to help me. With a suitcase in one hand and a trash bag in the other, I left the only home I'd ever known. Ava stood on the porch, loudly declaring that she had no obligation to support a non-family member. I was heartbroken and humiliated. I moved into a tiny, run-down studio apartment. I worked 2 jobs, one at a bookstore in the morning and another at a diner in the evening. I survived on cheap food and cold nights. Meanwhile, Ava posted pictures of her luxurious vacations on social media, living it up in the house that was once filled with our family's love. The bank card sat in my nightstand drawer for years. Every time I thought about checking it, I heard Ava's mocking voice in my head, so I never did. My coworker, Lily, was the only bright spot in my life. She always made sure I ate and never pressured me to talk about my family. 1 year after the funeral, I saw a post on social media about Ava's amazing home renovation. The house looked like a dream, and the comments were filled with praise for her. But then I saw Aunt Linda's comment, "I wish Shelby could be here," which was quickly deleted by Ava. 3.5 years after the funeral, things were a bit better. I became a shift manager at the bookstore and quit the diner job. I had health insurance for the first time in years. Around Thanksgiving, Lily invited me to her place for dinner. That night, as I passed by the drawer with a bank card, I thought about throwing it away, but Aunt Linda's words stopped me. For years after the funeral, I received an envelope from the lawyer's office. It said there were assets specifically designated for me and my parents' estate. I thought it was a scam, just like Ava had said I wasn't in the will. I crumpled the letter and threw it away. But the lawyer, Mr. Harris, kept trying to reach me. He left a voicemail saying my parents loved me and made special arrangements to protect me. I still couldn't bring myself to believe it. 5 years after the funeral, Lily showed me a real estate listing for my childhood home, which was up for foreclosure due to Ava's husband's gambling debts. That night, I stared at the bank card in the drawer for a long time. The next day, I decided to go to the bank and cancel the card, thinking it would be the last tie to a family that had abandoned me. At the bank, the teller, Sarah, looked at the card and then at me with a shocked expression. She went to get her manager. When they came back, The manager explained that the card was an activation key for a private trust fund that my parents had set up 5 years ago. It was worth $5 million plus 5 years of accumulated interest, totaling around $5. $4 million. They also gave me an old, yellowed envelope with my mother's handwriting on it. For our daughter Shelby. We love you. I started crying right there in the bank. My parents had known Ava would try to take everything, and they'd protected me in secret. That evening, I called Mr. Harris. He told me he'd been trying to find me since the funeral, but Ava had told him I'd moved abroad and wanted no contact. 2 days before the auction, I met with Mr. Harris. He showed me the property details and asked if I was sure I wanted to buy the house back. I told him this house was a part of me, and I wouldn't let it fall into a stranger's hands. Now, here I am, facing Ava after the auction. She catches up to me at the paperwork table, begging me for help. She looks a mess, with smeared makeup and a disheveled appearance. Jake has already left her. She pleads, saying she has nowhere to go, and that I'm her sister. I look at her and remember all the pain she's caused me. I calmly tell her that our parents left me a private trust fund because they knew she'd try to take everything. She can't believe it, but it's the truth. I tell her that I've learned over the past 5 years that some people don't deserve second chances. 1 week later, I stand in front of my childhood home with the key in my hand. The house is in bad shape, but it's still home. As I step inside, the memories flood back. I find a box of old photos in the closet, pictures of our happy family. Aunt Linda visits me the next day, crying and apologizing for not doing more. She tells me that once the news of the trust fund spread, the whole family turned on Ava. Jake divorced her, her friends stopped talking to her, and she was all alone. A month after the auction, Ava shows up at my garden gate, looking hollow and desperate. She asks for help, but I've learned my lesson. I tell her she's not welcome, not out of revenge, but because I've seen her true colors too many times. 6 months later, the house has been renovated. It has fresh paint, new windows, and a beautiful garden just like my father used to have. I've invited Aunt Linda, Lily, and a few other friends over for dinner. As I hang the family photo on the wall, I realize that even though our family had its flaws, the love my parents gave me was real. And now, I'm exactly where I belong.